If you're a flat earther, you're probably an idiot. That is, unless you live on Corneria, as there may actually be some evidence to back up that theory.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And it's just one of several weird and interesting things we discovered in the new Skybox game as we attempted to explore the very boundaries of this world. Now, pretty much everything that we'll be showing off here are things you would never notice during an ordinary playthrough, as every level has been meticulously designed to look practically perfect with a standard camera angle behind the R-Wing. But, as with theme parks, the illusion can start to fall apart if you change your perspective. And as it turns out, Starfox's cockpit view allows us to see things from an angle they were never meant to be seen. For example, as you cross a waterway that splits Corneria City, you might notice some big ships engaged in battle way off in the distance. Now, even though the ones on the left side look normal enough, there's something a bit weird going on with the ones on the right. Yeah, they're two-dimensional! You can tell because our perspective of them doesn't change as we fly past. And check this out, as we approach the final three in the back, they begin to distort before vanishing into thin air. Must be the new cloaking technology. And there's actually another two-dimensional ship you can find earlier on the right side of the first half of Corneria. And you can really see the distortion with this one. Aw, it kinda looks cute now. Even with the ugly Andros face on the front of it that I'm only now noticing, like the ships in Sector Y. Now in both of these scenes, you might have noticed something else, and that's how the explosions look a little weird. And that's because they're literally running at 1/10 of the frame rate, as in each frame of animation is on screen for 6 to 7 frames before crossfading to the next one. But again, it's the kind of thing you're not going to notice unless you're looking for it. Kind of like how you would probably never notice that you can also find 2D ships in the background of Area 6, with this one in particular being near the boss at the end. And speaking of boss fights, have you ever wondered what happened to the attack carrier after it first appears and flies past the waterfall? I mean, you obviously encounter it later if you take the secret route, but what about before that point? Well, if we perform a few well-timed somersaults just before the waterfall, we can slow ourselves down enough in order to see exactly what happens after doing one more somersault, that is, to get a high enough vantage point to actually witness it. Except it's still almost impossible to see. But if we zoom in and slow down the footage, you can see exactly what happens. And that's how the attack carrier just straight up flies through the mountain ahead of it. It don't care about physics. Now, on the topic of somersaults, it lets us do something that you could not do in the original game, being you can do them in the first-person cockpit view. If you try to do it in the original game, it would temporarily boot you back to the third-person view before going back into first-person. But now, you can remain in first-person the entire time, which means that, for the first time ever, we can very briefly see these levels from the reverse side. And as it just so happens, there are some interesting things to see, or not see, as it were. Like how the arches you can fly through have no backside at all. And the same thing goes for the pillars at the beginning of the stage too. Wait a second, I just realized something. We can use this trick to see the world's 8th wonder. It's the backside of water! Or half of it anyway. Because although we can see the thick white portions, the calmer part of the waterfall in between is completely invisible, which is a little weird. In fact, if you try it again after exiting the cave, you're gonna see that a big part of the backside of that mountain is missing. But that's nothing compared to what happens if you try at the very end of the stage along the secret path, where we can see that the backside of the valley is missing and that the building here isn't actually built on anything. And it also exposes the limited range of the water and terrain here. But I want to stress that with how quick the somersaults usually are, no one would ever see this during normal gameplay. But if we head over to Venom, we can see something similar without having to do any somersaults at all. Because if you just hang left after this turn while in first person, you'll see that they didn't even bother to model this portion of the canyon wall. And for whatever reason, this level in particular is really aggressive about removing the terrain you've already passed. Yeah, there's nothing there. We can also use a somersault to find out what happens to enemies once they're behind you. See the 2 turrets on the ship here? Well, now you don't. Now, what about that flat earth stuff I was talking about earlier? Well, you might have already noticed it yourself in a few of the clips I've used. Because even though the game overall does a really good job of giving the impression that the world extends forever, there is one glaring exception I found, being the water segments of Corneria, with the middle stretch here being the worst offender. Because if you use cockpit view and veer either to the left or even more notably to the right, you're gonna see that the water comes to an abrupt end. Let's just hope that Slippy doesn't take the Bloomerang all the way over there. Another strange thing I noticed involves a skybox of some levels. Because if you do a first-person somersault and freeze it at the very moment you're facing straight upward, you can see the exact point where the sky texture converges. Wait a second, it looks kind of like a giant
chocolate starfish.
Finally, one of my favorite glitches from Star Fox 64 returns, in which you can gain altitude indefinitely while in all-range mode by performing U-turns over and over and over. And if you do this enough on a satellite pulse, you can see that the satellite's wings aren't even connected to the main body. I guess the contractors just cheaped out here. And that's all I've got, so if you like this video, click the subscribe button and ring the bell for more. And let me know if you found anything else weird about Star Fox's world in the comments below. With that, we'll catch you next time. Bye everyone!